I've noticed that we're now arguing in the United States whether to say Kyiv or Kiev. And I understand the difference, but is that what's important to you, if anything?
It would be nice if everyone started using the actual name, which is Kyiv, right?
Okay. Okay.
But I feel that even the more important thing is stop calling Ukraine the Ukraine.
Okay.
Because it's not a thing.
Okay, you ready to get rolling?
Let's do it.
Matt, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready and rolling. Okay. So,
Nataliya, welcome, and it's I'm so happy to see you safe. You are in Kyiv right now?
Yes, still here.
Yes, and I really wanted to talk to you. It seems like a different lifetime ago when we were hanging out in Guatemala talking about ways to make the Ukraine a more free place. I just said the thing you told me not to say. Tell us why we don't call it the Ukraine.
Well, because
I don't know why I do. I don't know who taught me that, but
the Ukraine refers to Ukraine being part of a bigger country, so like to the Soviet Union times, and since that's not a thing anymore, even though Putin is struggling with this concept. So we lose the article, and it's just Ukraine.
Okay, so for everybody watching this, it's Ukraine, and it's Kyiv, not Kiev. Is that correct as well?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely right.
And that is the Ukraine pronunciation instead of the Russian pronunciation.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so as I said, I'm glad that you are safe, but I know that you are right in the middle of it. I've been following your saga primarily through your Facebook page, but tell me from your perspective what's going on. I mean, start with, I guess we have to go back 72 hours now. You are now 3+ days into the Russian attack on Ukraine. And, you know, a lot of so-called experts in the United States didn't imagine it would last that long. But I feel like Vladimir Putin has bitten off perhaps more than he thought here. But just tell me stories about what's going on.
Well, I think that this belief that Ukraine won't last long, that Putin obviously counted on, because his plan A was so-called blitzkrieg, which never happened. I think he obviously underestimated Ukraine, and he expected that you know, all of these soldiers will be greeted with flowers, bread, and salt as soon as they enter Ukraine, and that never happened. And it's just one of his delusions. As for the foreigners thinking about Ukraine like that, I think it might have been, you know, influenced by what happened in Afghanistan, with how fast the army crumbled. And afterwards, we realized that there wasn't really such a thing as an Afghan army, right? Because the numbers were inflated, the people were not ready, they were not motivated for, you know, many reasons. But the case of Ukraine is absolutely different. So in our situation, we have an obvious unprovoked attacker who is sending here people who are not motivated, who did not, some of them did not expect to go to war, because technically everything started with, you know, exercises, right? Military exercises at the border. So they were caught off guard by their task, that they're coming here to kill people. Some of them thought that they were either peacekeepers or so-called saviors. Well, that didn't happen. And they also thought that they will be fighting against some, you know, neo-Nazi lunatics. and it turns out they are fighting, the people of Ukraine that haven't been united like this in a very, very long time. So I feel that in general, with how Putin has been behaving, he is creating his own threats, and he is undermining himself with what he is doing, because he didn't understand that Ukrainians and Russians are different, that Ukrainians value their freedom and independence, and they're not afraid to show him, that we are different, and that we're not running away. You have a lot of civilians picking up weapons. We have so-called territorial defense, which is basically either people who had previous experience in the army, or just civilians who had some kind of minimal training. They're getting their hands on weapons, and they are protecting separate districts, especially in Kyiv, which became the center of Putin's plan B, which is just to throw everything in Kyiv, to have it surrounded, so that he can eliminate the current government, put the puppet government in power, and then withdraw quickly, because the longer it lasts, the more he bleeds, both literally and figuratively. Allegedly, this war costs them 15 billion pounds a day, or something like that. Today, I think we saw the first appearance of Chechens in Ukraine, and a couple of them were captured, the ones that survived the attack. The Ukrainian army is being absolutely brutal to the attackers, but those who decide to stop killing innocent people and give up, obviously they are captured, they're interviewed, and everything is posted online. And today, our Ministry of Defense announced that they are creating a hotline for Russians who have their family members sent to Ukraine, and who can't, either connect with them or are not sure where they are. So they can just call this hotline, and Ukrainian crazy neo-Nazis will help them find out information about what's going on with their relatives. And if they're captured, we'll give them an opportunity to send a word or two to them. So this is what's happening, and it gets scarier at night, because this is when a lot of rocket launching happens, airstrikes, because they're trying to be sneaky about this. And tonight is expected to be especially hard, because we saw Russian grads approaching Kyiv, and this is a very dangerous weapon, because our air defense system operators cannot shoot them down. So it's going to be.
Talk about so you're obviously in your apartment, and there have been some bombings of civilians, and I see pictures, at least, of people, I guess, sheltering in subway stations and stuff like that. Tell me what has happened the last couple of nights living in Kyiv.
So basically, a lot of people in Kyiv and in Kharkiv and just bigger cities in general with a subway system, that's where they go to either during all of the nights, because those are like the biggest designated bomb shelters in the country. So that's where they go with their pets, with their children, and stay there for the night. Or that's where families go to even during the day, just to be safe. That's the thing that a lot of Ukrainians don't, especially people in Kyiv, they do not feel safe at home. So they're looking, for a place, but also atmosphere. So I think the location does not really matter that much. It's just being with people like you. It just makes them feel a little bit better, because everyone is super close there. And I saw yesterday that in one of metro stations, they set up this makeshift movie theater for kids. So just like a little bit of a distraction. Now, well, I am at home. I never went to a bomb shelter. I do know where the closest location is. It's not exactly a bomb shelter. It's just like a apartment building basement, which is deep enough to protect you in case, a missile strike or a rocket launch. So it is close. There is one actual bomb shelter nearby, but I wouldn't be able to reach it tonight, because starting at 5 p.m. right now it's almost 11 p.m. But starting at 5 p.m. we had very strict curfew introduced in Kyiv, and this curfew will last until 8 a.m. Monday morning. So it's almost a 2-day curfew during which we are advised not to leave our apartments. Well, I guess unless you're going for the nearest bomb shelter. You can find, because during this time, our National Guard, Army, and Territorial Defense will be trying to intercept and capture Russian agents hiding in the midst of civilians. So, yeah.
So there's, and you've touched on this, and you've been posting pictures on Facebook, but the civilian part of the national defense is quite striking. You showed a picture of one mom with probably a Kalashnikov rifle, prepared to go to war. Explain a little bit about that the parliament just recently, I think like less than a week ago, legalized having weapons outside the home, but Ukraine has been different in the sense that there is citizens are allowed to have guns, which is quite unusual for the region, I believe.
Well, this is a very complicated issue, and actually a lot of gun advocates are very unhappy with this law, because we still don't have a self-defense law. And this is a problem, because like you have to go through 10 circles of hell to prove that you had the right to use even a knife defending your home and your family. So basically the change is very on the surface. The government is still, well, at least that was a couple of days ago, everything changed. But officially, the government still thinks that Ukrainians should not be trusted with guns, especially if we are talking about smaller non-hunting weapons. But then again, the day before yesterday, we had 10,000 automatic rifles distributed among our territorial defense, because this is war, right? That was peacetime talk, and now everyone is ready. Everyone is suddenly a responsible adult, able to use an automatic weapon. So the fact that those weapons were distributed is obviously extremely helpful. Hopefully people do know how to use those weapons, and they're not going to hurt themselves in the process, just because they didn't have the time for proper preparation, you know, and just because they're, even if you're a hunter, right, the weapons used for hunting are very different from automatic rifles. So yeah, at least they're armed. That was not enough weapons. They're saying that they will be distributing more. Well, the more the better in our situation, but also they're armed with the Ukrainians' favorite weapon, which is Molotov cocktail. So we had a lot of practice with those in 2013 and 2014. And now our various divisions of our army, they're distributing information, instructing people where to hit which vehicle with a Molotov cocktail to cause as much damage as possible. So this is what the territorial defense members were busy with today. So if you look through pictures from the biggest cities in Ukraine, you will see that there are tons and tons of boxes with glass bottles filled up with the inflammatory liquid, and with pieces of cloth sticking out. So this is what they will be doing tonight, and this is what they will be doing tomorrow, and we'll see for how much longer it's going to last.
So the thing that perhaps, and this is me not knowing enough, and you're going to correct me if I get this wrong, but perhaps the biggest miscalculation that Putin made here was not appreciating that there's now several generations of Ukrainians since the Declaration of Independence in 1991 that don't have the built-in loyalty to Russia that perhaps existed in the early 2000s. Talk a little bit about younger generations. You would be one of them, but what is the mindset of young people when Russia invades their country?
Well, the case of my generation is very interesting because we might not be that young anymore, but we went through actually, well, one huge protest in defense of Ukrainian language, like massive public protest when we were students, and we went through two massive revolutions in Ukraine. So in 2004, against falsified elections, I was in high school then, and then in 2013-14 when I was a student. And the 2013-14 one, it was basically like a civilizational shift, because at that moment we said that no, we have a different path than Russia. We want to be closer to Europe. We share European values, and we want to develop differently. And the misunderstanding that came out of that situation among some people in Ukraine and among a lot of people in Russia was that was the US doing. That the US installed, created a coup in the country, first of all. and then installed their own puppet government, right? And suddenly all of us were enslaved by the West, that we don't have the brains of our own, and we're just doing whatever, I don't know, the White House is telling us to do. Obviously, they were very, very wrong, and they didn't understand what happened. Like at first, what we called Maidan, it started with students who were extremely unhappy when the government announced that no, we will not be continuing on the pro-European route. And then the protest was dying down until there were basically like a dozen or so people left spending the night on the Independence Square. And instead of waiting a couple more days, until they all go home, our government sent the police to beat them up. And after that, that's when the real revolution happened. So if you basically, the message from most of Ukrainians was, if you're going to beat up our children, we're going to get rid of you. So we got rid of our pro-Russian dictator, and just not everyone realized that. So we are a democracy. We have a lot of issues on our own, but we elect our government, and when we elect our government, this government represents not all Ukrainians, because we are a democracy, right? That's why we still have pro-Russian politicians. They're active. They have a party of their own. Here we're not talking about like Russian agents or anything, but they do exist once again because we are a democracy, and we do have nationalists in the country. We do have neo-Nazis in the country, but they are a marginal minority group, and it's ridiculous when when Russians have this weird understanding of how Ukrainians elect their government, and the whole relationship between the people and the government, because it's completely different from what it is in Russia. So I don't know how to, I'm sorry, I don't know how we can get through to a lot of them, but we are at least trying to dispel some of the misconceptions. And one of the main ones being that, no, we don't need the Russian army here. We don't want them here. They are not welcome. But if they come, they are most likely going to go back in body bags.
It has to be a good omen that your cat has joined the show, because as you know, cats are inherently libertarian and they believe in independence. So I take this as a sign. If I was actually at home, I'm in Oklahoma City right now, one of my cats would be photobombing the conversation as well. So I think it's a good thing.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. Hey, so talk about, let's drill a little bit deeper for those of us that don't understand so much about Ukraine, to talk about this Russian minority, because obviously part of what we're told is in Crimea and Donbas, these are Russian majority regions of the country, and how does that break out? Obviously, you have a pro-Russian faction of your parliament. Fill in some of those blanks.
Well, so a couple of things that are important to understand. In Ukraine, we should differentiate between Russian-speaking Ukrainians and Russian-speaking Ukrainians. So they're mostly Russians, and basically they can be called Russians because they were sent here to our land during our not very enjoyable time at the Soviet Union. So that's how the Soviet Union was trying to, fight this element, the freedom-loving element in the Ukrainian people, was by sending ethnic Russians here. And as for Crimea, the situation with Crimea is that it was, we have sirens going off. So the situation with Crimea is that it was technically gifted to Ukraine while it was part of the Soviet Union. But Russians there are not the, let's say, the local nationality, because that's the home of Crimean Tatars. And the Soviet Union tried to get rid of, to break them, to move them out of Crimea. And now Russia is continuing persecuting Crimean Tatars, because they're freedom-loving people, and they're vocal. And that's why they're being persecuted, kidnapped in the middle of the day, and imprisoned. As for Ukraine in general, I would not say that the distinction is between like Ukrainian speaking and Russian speaking Ukrainians. It's more like Ukrainian speaking, Russian speaking Ukrainians against Russian speaking pro-Russian Ukrainians, just because of the thought difference, different values. Most of them who are really Russia loving, they consume information and narrative produced in Russia. So they do not like watch Ukrainian channels. They do not follow the media that's maybe a bit more objective or truthful about these things, and they do have very strong ties with Russia. So they have families there. That's where they travel, when they go on vacation, and they really keep those ties alive. So yeah, they speak Russian. The majority of them are they are Orthodox Christians, but they are Russian Orthodox Christians, because in Ukraine we have Ukrainian Orthodox Christians and Russian Orthodox Christians. We have Roman Catholics, we have Greek Catholics, and so on. The church, for a while, the Russian Orthodox Church, they were basically, I don't know how to say it correctly, or maybe more fairly, but they were Kremlin agents in the country. And just because they were basically living in those pro-Russia ghettos, they were actually very happy when Russians came in and said, hey, we're gonna fund you, we're gonna back you up, we're gonna provide you with people and weapons at the beginning, and then we will create people's republics. And that's exactly how our war with Russia started. It started in 2014. It's just back then they were being smarter about their methods, and they insisted that Russian soldiers were not on the ground. They were not present there, but in a matter of days they distributed Russian passports. They actually insisted on people switching their nationality, and in Ukraine you're not allowed dual citizenship. So basically, if you want to switch, you have to give up your Ukrainian citizenship. Then they took over, mines, businesses. They introduced Russian banks in there. So basically, they like created small Russias within the territory of Ukraine. And now they showed up claiming that they came to save those people's republics from genocide. From the genocide created by the US installed government in Kyiv, neo-Nazi government, which is even funnier taking into account that both our previous president and current presidents, they are Jewish and Russian speaking, outside of their formal engagements. So and that's why, to those people who actually believe in this genocide, I would like to ask, I think, a very reasonable question. So why do you think, if Russia knew about this genocide and has known about this genocide for the past 8 years, or why did it take them so long, to come and rescue you? Horrible Ukrainians. So that's ridiculous. Obviously, the point about Ukrainians shelling civilians and things like that is not true. Civilians do die when there is military action going on, unfortunately. But the Ukrainian side was actually sticking to the Minsk Accords in the points in which certain weapons were banned or they were not allowed. And in most cases, the Ukrainian army wasn't even allowed to shoot back. And that's one of the reasons why, a lot of after the wave of volunteers in 2014, because our army was basically non-existent. So that wave of volunteers died down, and at some point they left the army because they were so, disheartened, disillusioned, and it's very difficult psychologically, when you get shot at every day, your comrades, your brothers in arms and sisters in arms die every day, but there's nothing you can do about it because you're actually the side that is following the rules. So a lot of them even left the country altogether, but they're coming back now because they're actually allowed to, protect their land now. They're allowed to use these weapons, modern weapons that we are receiving from our Western allies. And actually, Germany today announced that they will allow for German-made weapons to be sent to Ukraine. Before this, only the American-made ones were allowed. So they're coming back. And one of the rumors is that they're especially eager to have another meeting with Chechens, because they are not done. They didn't finish their conversation in 2014, and when they were involved. So we see this desire of people to to be done with this now, because it has dragged on for a really long time. And this escalation, this full-scale invasion, it created an opportunity to for us to basically have our say. So no, this is not Russia and the US trying to, resolve their issues. And no, this is not Russia worrying and trying to protect, its security interests. If you're worried about your security, you protect your land within your own borders. You don't invade other countries, and you don't threaten other countries, because he even threatened Finland and Sweden earlier today. So yeah, Russia is creating a lot of its own security issues, and no, it's not about NATO. Ukraine wanted and still wants to join NATO because it feels threatened by Russia, not because NATO is encroaching. And now, since this massive escalation, it just, to me at least, it makes sense that NATO is increasing its presence in the region to make sure that its members are protected. But it had a cause, and it was Russia's actions and Russia's behavior and the messages that Putin has been putting out publicly.
What is your take on President Zelensky?
When he was brought into power, it was a landslide victory. So it was 73% of people voted to support him and to support his party, which is the majority party in the parliament. I did not vote for him. So a lot of people are saying, like, this is my president because I voted for this person, or this is not my president because I didn't vote for this person. So right now he's everyone's president. So he might have started off as a clown, as a lot of people call him, just because of his comedian background. But he has clearly risen up to the occasion. He's doing it right. He is delivering the correct messages, and he has grown a lot in these past couple of days. And I think for himself, he has realized a lot, because he also had his own illusions about Russia, about Putin. But when you have these people bringing war to your country, your way of thinking tends to change quite a bit. So right now we are very proud of the government that we have, and we are very proud of our army, and we have complete faith in our army, and we ourselves are doing whatever we can to support these men and women, and of volunteers, because we have so many people working on this, so many people trying to defend Ukraine against Russia, is that it's just a huge show of unity, political unity, ideological unity. And before this, we used to say that the problem of Ukraine, other than issues like the lack of rule of law, corruption, all connected issues, that the biggest issue of Ukraine is the absence of the national idea, something that would bring us together. Well, now we have this national idea, and it basically can be summarized as, kick Russians' asses, Russians' occupants' asses. So yeah, it's a tremendous show of unity. And sure, we're scared. We're going against a very big army. It might not be the best army in the world, or the most prepared army in the world. We don't have a lot of insiders information about how things are going in the Russian army, but just judging by what we were able to capture, obviously the Ukrainian army, the condition of their armored vehicles, tanks, things like that, it's not ideal. They are not motivated. Yes, there are a lot of them, and we have a big problem right now is ensuring air defense. That's why you could probably see a lot of Ukrainians and politicians calling for the no-fly zone over Ukraine, because that would be like NATO guaranteed no-fly zone over Ukraine, like they did for Israel, even though Israel is not a NATO member. So I think a very important point to make is that we do not expect the US or NATO to send people to Ukraine, to fight or instead of us, or to fight with us. No, that's not something that we want, unless we see separate groups like volunteering to join us and stand with us. But receiving javelins, stingers, receiving Bayraktars from Turkey, like all of this is extremely helpful. And maybe securing this no-fly zone over Ukraine is a bit too extreme for NATO, right? They're trying not to get as involved, maybe in order not to piss Putin off even more or something. But yeah, this is one of the challenges that we are trying to deal with. And in this moment, we actually wish we had an Iron Dome over Ukraine, what Israel has. Because obviously we would be a lot more protected than we are now. But I think we are handling ourselves pretty admirably, and we survived 3 days, and hopefully we will last longer. I guess military experts, they allege that if we are able to stand our ground for 10 days, then Russia will have to back off, because they will not have enough money, manpower, resources to keep this going. I don't know how true that is. I just know that we are not planning to back down anytime soon. So, however long it takes.
You said earlier, and we heard that the sirens, has there been fighting near where you live?
Well, there have been cases of Russian saboteurs and Russian military vehicles stopped nearby on their way to the government quarters. So technically, I don't live next to any strategic objects or governmental objects. But during the night, they tend to just bomb places randomly, or aiming at one place, they completely miss it, and the missile or the rocket ends up in an apartment building, like we saw this morning. So at night, we are not feeling particularly safe. And there was a message, my brother sent me a message. When was it? It was 20 minutes ago, saying that in 30 minutes, Kyiv will be heavily bombed. So this is something that we were warned about because of the approach of grads. So if they do launch those, it will be like blanket shelling. So these weapons, they are not selective about their targets. So there will be a lot of casualties, and obviously they will be going for civilians as well. So that's something we will be waiting for. So probably no one is going to go to sleep tonight.
So when we set this up at the last minute because we wanted to get your perspective and hopefully create a platform for you to tell this story. And Terry, my wife, was texting with you, and she asked if we could identify you publicly, and you said, so far so good. Sure, I don't have any reservations about speaking publicly. It's my duty as a Ukrainian. You talked about the unity of Ukrainians. Give me a sense. Give me some hope. Give me some hope that there's enough resolve here, that everyone in Ukraine is going to be okay. Not everyone. I don't know what to
Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, no, it's not going to be everyone, because we already have civilian casualties. And so far, we see that the death toll is around 300 people. And those are only the ones that they were able to identify. And a lot of people are missing, and more than 1,000 people are injured. So unfortunately, not everyone will be able to survive this. But, you know, if we're going on the way of storytelling, right? We're trying to learn how to tell stories properly. So just today, an 80-year-old man showed up to register for the army with a little brown leather suitcase in which he had 2 t-shirts and 2 pairs of pants. And he said that he was doing it for his grandchildren. In a different situation, you know, we have military conscription in the country. And under normal circumstances, you will have people trying to bribe their way out of the army. Now people are trying to bribe their way in because they want to register either for the army or for the territorial defense. It doesn't matter. So they're trying to bribe their way in, but they can't find slots available. And because like there's not enough ammunition, equipment for everyone who wants to sign up, they wait in lines for hours and hours to do that. We see people who wait in lines for 3, 4, or 5 hours to donate blood. I'm back. So to donate blood and things like that. So I think we'll be fine. We have a great support system, you know, in ourselves. We do get a lot of messages from people, you know, asking like if you're able to get to the border with Poland, Romania, Hungary, or you know, get to one of the Baltic states, like we will be able to help you out. So far, we're not going anywhere. I absolutely do not judge people who decided to leave, you know, who decided to leave Kyiv, who go to the Western Ukraine because it's a bit safer, or to leave Ukraine altogether. I just know that they will be doing what they can from where they are, you know, to help out. And we do need the help of people who are outside of Ukraine because of this shortage of medical supplies, ammunition, and like bulletproof vests, helmets, and things like that. So we need them out there working on this matter. So we think we'll be fine.
And it doesn't sound like you're giving up.
No, because we don't have another choice. Because like if we give up now, there will be no Ukraine. And that's a very, very heavy cost to pay. And we all understand this.
Okay. I'm going to let you go. Thank you, Nataliya. This has been very educational for me. And all I can tell you is stay safe.
Thank you, guys. Well, you know, follow follow the news, but be very selective about what you read, because there's a lot of Russian propaganda out there.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that show, make sure that you like and subscribe. Click the little bell so that you get notifications. And if you consume this via podcast, go wherever you want to go. We're everywhere. Kibbe on Liberty. The revolution starts now.